この番組はご覧のスポンサーの提供でお送りします。Alrighty, welcome everyone. I'm Teeaboo and I am here for Yorimoi, episode 12. Jesus Christ, we are on episode 12. I know I said something about this, that we're coming to the end of it in the last episode, but Jesus Christ, we're on the penultimate episode. Like the end now. It's this and one more week and we're done skis. That's kind of sad because I'm really enjoying where the show is going. Okay, so last week's episode, we focused pretty heavily on Hinata, and specifically on the interactions that occurred because a couple of her friends, and I feel very safe to put air quotes around that now, a couple of her friends from her old track team ended up reaching out to her. And, you know, we don't really get a lot of insight into their motivations for doing this. But the reason that we don't get that insight is because it doesn't fucking matter, and they don't fucking matter. Hinata's off doing a good thing, and she's got real friends who really support her, and they can just fuck off. They can just live with the guilt and whatever shame they have, and I love it. I absolutely love the entire way that this whole interaction went, from Hinata's freak-out kicking in the snow, to Shirase's slowly noticing it and trying to figure out a way to bring it up and figure out what happened, to the actual resolution of the thing, and the eventual chewing out that occurs on, I assume, live TV, which is fucking awesome, and amazing, and really good. But, with that core A-plot storyline, which was pretty concise and pretty self-contained and pretty straightforward, I think, we got something else, which is a little bit of a mystery, and that is the question that has been keeping me up all week, the one that I've been racking my brain over, but not really. What's in the box? What's in the box? What's the box? Now, I'll level with you. I had a plan. I was gonna do, you know, the Charlie from It's Always Sunny meme with him with the board and all the strings attached to it everywhere and like crazy hair and shit. Man, I came so close to doing that, to just like fucking up my hair and finding a whiteboard and just like tacking a bunch of random bullshit to it and just putting on a show. I decided not to do it because I don't feel that good this morning. Or I didn't. I feel better now, which is why I'm actually recording, but it's been a rough morning and I didn't feel up to making a fun thing. But I thought about it because it's such an interesting mystery. I'm sure it's not as interesting, the answer to it isn't going to be that interesting, but like, is it something super personal and related to Takako? If so, why was it sent by Dromlin? Is it something technical and normal and totally expected? Which makes sense if it was sent by Dromlin. If so, why is there so much emphasis on it? And why does that emphasis seem to be in an emotional context surrounding Takako? I don't know. So I'm confused, and most of the options that I've come up with for what's in the box come up invalid in some way. Now, my things that are invalidating them could in themselves be invalid and blah, 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 blah. So it's not that useful to speculate about what's in the box, but God, I want to know. Like, I just want to know. I just want to understand. Okay, and then I think the last thing that I really want to mention is the end credit scene, which I misinterpreted. And thank you for those of you who pointed out rather quickly that I misinterpreted it. The end credit scene shows a room with the place for the universe book, some coats and a suitcase, as well as like a little penguin statue and a light. When I looked at the room, the only place that I looked to determine whether it was one of the girls' rooms was the room that they were in when they were talking to Hinata. What I didn't pick up on is they're no longer rooming as a group of four, they're rooming as solos. So Shirase's room could very well have that exact lamp, and it's pretty likely that the room that we hovered in on and showed was Shirase's, not Takako's. So my whole idea of like we're gonna be uncovering, revisiting that stuff falls apart on that front, but because it's episode 12 and I'm kind of expecting some kind of like a little bit of returning home, because the whole trip is sort of a thing, right? Like returning back to Japan and being changed seems to be a core thematic element of the reasons for going on the trip and what they've been gaining from it. So I'm kind of expecting that we will uncover some of the deeper Takako stuff in this episode. And indeed, I think it's reasonable to expect that this will probably be the most gut-punchy episode of the show. There might be more in episode 13 that will resonate with me, Sometimes because, like, positive emotions are usually what gets me emotionally more than negative ones, or sorrow or loss or grief or anything like that. I'm pretty resilient against those. It's the positive stuff that gets me. So I feel like episode 12 will probably be the more emotionally dramatic episode, but I feel like episode 13, with the victorious aspect of it, if that actually is what happens, will probably resonate with me more. I don't know. I don't know why I'm talking about it. It's just kind of a heads up, and maybe a way for you to gauge the way that I react to what we see coming up. But we're doing stuff. We're in the place. We don't have that much time to spend in the place. The majority of the show has been spent on the journey to get there, which makes a lot of sense. It's an adventure show. The adventure is, in large part, getting to your destination and returning. So that makes perfect sense. But when we do arrive, now that we've settled in a bit, now that we've hit our beats of victory, right? We hit our in your face from Shirase and everybody else. We hit the moment of her talking and somewhat reconciling with Gin. We covered Hinata's deal with her friends. We've covered a lot of the core issues, but we haven't addressed the big one at the center, which is Mom. Not really. Not in the place. We did on the boat with Gin, but we haven't really addressed it. So I think the box has something to do with it. If it's something personal to her, sure. If it's technical with meaning instilled upon it by previous, like, intent, then that would also make sense. Like, if it's the founding centerpiece for the observatory or whatever that was Takako's dream, then it has that emotional context around it while still making sense that Dromlin would send them this thing and it would be a technical installment, right? Okay. One question I have is whether we're going to have any form of repetition in decision making. Like, I think a pretty common thing when you have a decision made that causes loss of life, and that loss of life is the impact on the rest of the story and the main characters of the story, that a similar situation will occur later in the narrative and characters will be given a chance to change their decisions. So what I'm thinking of is the blizzard with Takako caught outside, and I'm wondering if there will be any kind of repetition of the situation, either with Gin in the position that she was on the radio and having to make that call, or with one of the other girls. I don't feel like the show's going to get that dangerous, but it seems like it's a potential narrative choice that could be made to go and repeat those things to create a book ending thematically. I don't know. I don't expect it, but I'm bringing it up because it's possible. And I'm not sure whether I'll like it if it were to happen, because it could end up being kind of trite and kind of bullshitty. And that doesn't seem like the kind of thing that the authors of this show, that Juki Hanada in particular, would go for. Okay, I'm getting too far into the weeds and off on tangents at this point. So I think what we should do is just steel ourselves for what is probably to come and dive on into episode 12 and see what we're up against. So, in the interest of doing that, I've got episode 12 of Sorayori up and ready to go. It is sitting at 0 seconds. There will be 2 versions of this reaction. You can find a picture-in-picture version with the video up there, linked in the description, and a timer-based version up on YouTube. If you would like to do a syncy thing and sync up your own copy with the timer-based version, you're welcome to do so. Just get your copy ready, because the beep beep timer to count you down will be coming at you now. Oh, back at school. Oh, an announcement or something about them? Oh, hi. Oh. Oh, was this... No, your mom. This was when she found out. Okay, so, well, we're hitting the deep emotional content in this episode 100% if we're starting with this. And no OP, as far as I can tell, because we're getting credits over. That doubles down on it. And that's the location where they're going, isn't it? And now we're here? Yeah. Okay, so it is her room. Thank you. And it won't until you get closure. Even then, it might never. Fuck, dear mom. And the title. Title drop. Ooh, sure says face. Still, it's travel. Oh, she doesn't even notice the mention of her name. Wow. Yeah, talking to the reflection. Of course it's okay. Okay, fair. Looks like that one piece of hair just sort of blended back in. Right, but it's more complicated than that. Cool. The little bit of autofocus going on. That's nice. Whoosh. Bye-bye. Gonna say something philosophical about it? Nope. Okay, so she didn't go. Oh, no, she didn't go to this, but the other thing is still up in the air. But she's still watching it, huh? Oh. Of course they're ice cold. You just have to put them outside. Trying to make small talk, not really making inroads. Well, this is not awkward at all. Just a tumbleweed blowing by. Yeah, why are you standing here attempting to engage me in conversation? Sup? Worried for her? Okay, that was not what I expected at all. Hmm. Yeah. That's still a distinct possibility. But you've built it up so much for so long. But it doesn't click? Oh. It doesn't give you that connection you were looking for. Hmm. Does she not get it? She gets it, right? Oh, now she's questioning everything. Now what again? Okay, she's afraid of taking the very last step. Ah. It's not that she's worried that she'll break going in there. It's that she's worried that she won't feel anything and won't change. Wow, what a rapid transition. She really needs to. If she doesn't go, she will definitely feel the same way her whole life. Hi, Geen. Just gonna close the door. Nope. No, that makes sense. Sometimes it's more compassionate to let somebody figure stuff out on their own instead of trying to force it. That's basically what I was saying, yes. Is it not apparent to you? Aww, she's so happy about it. Of course, it's not apparent to her. Mm-hmm. About? And for the first time, it's said explicitly. No, that information is lost. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Everything she's done to get here, all the jobs. Yep. Oh, wow. Counting all the time she's spent, all the work she's done to get here. Wow. Reconnecting with that core. That drive that we met her, yeah. What are the last ones? Doesn't matter, I guess. Aww. Is she on there? She's not. Yes, she is. Okay, good. It would be a damn shame if she didn't come. Chop, chop. And she's coming. I'm ready. Okay, choice made. Oh no. Back into the heli. Oh, God, that's bright. Inland. Endless snow. You know what we still have the question of? What did she see? And do we get to see it? In a moment that implies it is what she saw. That would be the moment that breaks Shirase. Where she connects, right? And knowingly or unknowingly connects to the last moments of her mother. Oof, 6 or 7 miles an hour? Makes sense. Passing the time. Okay, what are we doing? Ooh. Colder and colder. Ugh. Huh? Are you trying to freeze a banana? She's trying to freeze a banana. Why do you put a nail through it? Ah. Huh. You want to answer? It's partly a safety thing, too. But also trust. I'm expecting something to happen tonight. Yeah, well, we know that. Is it the start of the aurora? Whoa. What's it refracted by? By ice crystals in the air? Whoa. Yes, but it was later. Blizzard. Will Shirase walk out? And you won't if you step outside. This is the thing that took your mother. And Gin sits there silent. Left something? So she was tied to you and disconnected it. All you could do was return. Huh. God, fuck. I need to write that down. Gratitude. You helped me set it in motion. Oh. Frozen cup noodles. Yes. She's hammering nails with the banana. Of course, absolutely. Wow, that is a shot. Ah. Oh, the telescope. First team observatory site. Lots and lots. This won't be over for a long time. So is the telescope what was in the box? Maybe. Yeah. Oh, Kimari. How do you know? Yeah. It's possible. No, it's not. We might. Oh my god, they are all for it. I love them so much. No, it's not. It might be, but it's also not. Found something? Diary, journal, manuscript? Photo album? One photo of her and her daughter. The thing that she went back for, maybe. Maybe. Is it a laptop cover? I think so. And she finally sighs, like she can breathe once more. It is her computer. Oh, that's so terrifying. Shirase? Shirase. Yep. Hup. Maybe not. I was waiting for a gut punch. I may have missed it. No, I think it was. Okay, gut punch acquired. Oh. And suddenly it's real, isn't it? She really hasn't read any of them and never will. Thousands. And sometimes you need to give them distance. Sunset? Huh. Laura. You see it for the first time. Fiend. Oh. Well, I'm 100% gonna need to take time to let this one settle, but before I do, just as a general overall thing, I thought this was excellent. I thought it was excellent. I thought multiple of the conversations that occur in this episode are really, really stellar. The whole conversation between Shirase and Gin is just gold. Just gold. And the way that the other girls handle this crucial moment around her and support her while keeping their distance and not being pushy, not being overbearing, letting her have the space she needs, make the decisions she needs to make. It's just excellent. It's just a picture of good friendship, a good support network, good people supporting other good people going through difficult things. And I love it. And I love it. But I think my prediction at the beginning was correct, that this was going to be the serious episode. And that became clear pretty much as soon as we started on this flashback. You know, you start with the moment that Shirase's life changed forever, the moment when she learned that her mother was not coming home. Pulled out of class at random. No warning. And suddenly everything's different, and Takako is gone. God damn. And then all of the moments where Shirase just looked lost in this episode. Staring off into space, or losing herself in the flashbacks, and the way we transition between those flashbacks to reality, snapping her back into it at inopportune or inconvenient times when maybe she would have liked to sink deeper into the thoughts. But those fantasies are all she has now. Again, I don't know how, but the episode still manages its insane balancing act, placing humor alongside the most heart-wrenching stuff that's possible, and making it work, right? It doesn't. I mean, sometimes it feels a little whiplashy, but it's not like the humor detracts from the tragedy or vice versa. They elevate each other because it's just so expertly layered together. People can be funny and people can be hurt, and those two things aren't exclusive. They're not mutually exclusive. The scene where she pulls every one of those 10,000 yen notes, setting it down, in touch with every step of her journey. It's unclear whether she knows and they're all ordered, or if she's just laying them out in a way that is like this amount of money, and it doesn't matter. What matters is that she's doing it at this moment of decision where she isn't sure that she can take the very last step of this journey she's gone on, where she's terrified of doing so. But maybe not for the reasons that we would expect. She's here for closure, right? She's here because her mom is waiting, as Kimari tells her. And she's afraid that if she goes to the place where her mom is, well, either she won't find anything, or worse, she will find something and she won't feel anything. She won't understand. God, that's horrifying. But the fact of the matter is, if she hadn't gone, she definitely would have never found anything, and she definitely would have never achieved closure, which in this case sucks. It hurts. It's breaking. That scene at the end where she sees all of the unread emails, thousands of them, is when it finally clicks. There is no line of communication, right? There hasn't been anyone on the other end. She isn't magically still alive in some ice cavern somewhere, checking her email. It's not how it works. She's gone. And you can't reach out to her again, and she can't respond. She's gone. But if you can accept that, and know it, then you're free of it. This episode handles grief, motivation, the difficult... that's another layer. Friendship, grief, the ways that we deal with them. The how do I put it? It's futile, but it's so ingrained and so necessary. The need to connect to people who aren't here anymore, whether that's through religion or delusion or just hope. But it also handles this crucial step that most shows, most anime, hell, most adventure novels can't manage, which is, how do you feel when you're one step away from the peak of Everest? How do you feel when you're one business deal away from closing whatever big business goal you've been going for? How do you feel when you hit the workout milestone you've been going for? Whatever it is, whatever adventure or journey or goal or path or mountain you've been climbing, there's this moment as you get to the peak of it, to the very end, And it's a moment of self-doubt and of questioning, because all of the time spent dedicated to this one goal is going to be over. And suddenly there's this question: was the goal worth all the effort that was put in? Was it the right goal? Did I achieve anything? Does it matter? How do I feel about it? And there's a reluctance to, well, maybe it's not universal, and maybe I shouldn't speak as though it's a universal thing, but it's certainly something I've experienced. A reluctance to finish things, because leaving them unfinished leaves doors open. A reluctance to finish a goal for the fear that you'll lose that state of being driven towards something. That's a big one for me. That's a huge one for me personally. Once I really get a goal in my head, I can strive for it and I can work toward it like crazy, and it's wonderful. And I love the person that I am when I'm goal oriented. I love it, because that guy, he's active and sincere and cares and puts in energy without having to play mental tricks on himself or, set a schedule or anything like that. It just happens. He's just gung-ho. But when I hit that goal, it's like you climb, and then it's just a cliff face to baseline. And what is baseline when you've been climbing for so long? It's a hard question to answer. And unless you have other goals lined up, which is hard to do because you're focused on the one, you may end up sinking and backsliding and getting to a place where it's harder to formulate a goal because you're not as coherent, not as concise, not as goal-oriented. That's how it is for me, at least. I don't know. This isn't exactly that, because it's more of an emotional goal that's being reached, right? But it still functions in the same way. This terror, this fear that Shirousei expresses for going there, what if I just feel this way for the rest of my life? That's relatable and real and serious. And it's not rational, perhaps, but it is human, 100%. I think that makes it super valuable as a thing in a piece of media. Because with very, very rare exceptions, people, usually in the case of people who die too young to deal with it, or who never knew anyone close enough to them, which are both their own kind of tragedy. But in very rare, except in very rare exceptions, all of us are going to have to wrestle with and fathom great loss in our lives. It's a part of existence. It's a part of youth, especially. When you're young, there are people older than you, and it's a guarantee that your parents are older than you, and it's a pretty good bet that they're going to die before you do. And it's a 100% guarantee that if and when they do, you're going to have to deal with it. You're going to have to come to terms with it. And at some point, you may find yourself taking that one final step that will either allow you to come to terms with your loss, or will be the last resort, and maybe you won't be fixed. You have to take that step, because if you don't, you will never be fixed. You will dwell on that loss. And that's not okay. It's not a way to live. And it's what Shirousei tries to do at the end here, when she almost pleads with them to stop. It's okay. Getting here was enough. That was my goal. This is all. But it's not. And they know it. She needs to take that step. And while they've held off and they've stood their distance when she was deciding whether to go, this isn't something they can let her choose. They need to step in. They do. And it's worth it. And then having done that, having delivered the laptop to her, they step away again. Even though they're hurt too, and they're hurting for her, and they probably want nothing more in the entire universe than to go in there and try and hug her, because that's how humans are, that's how friends are. They can't. And they know they can't, and so they don't. They hold off, and they sit outside. Fuck, this episode nailed so many things. Okay, I'm gonna go take a break. Use the bathroom, drink some tea, chill for a bit, and then I'll go through the episode again, specifically a couple of the conversations, especially the conversation between Shirase and Gin. I'll note take any lines that I really want to talk about and like expand on, and I don't know what I wrote down, but there are some other timestamps that I wrote down and I don't remember what they are. So I'll go through those and make better notes. Okay, me take break. Back in sec. We'll talk through the episode in a hopefully more coherent manner, because I've just been spewing initial thoughts, which has been quite a bit. Yeah. Me take break. See you in a minute. Peace. All right, welcome back. This is going to be interesting because I did something that I rarely do and have not done for a very long time, which is I just went and rewatched the whole fucking episode. There's too much in it for me to skim through it and be sure that I'm not missing something critical. So I rewatched the whole thing. I'll admit I upped the speed on some portions just a little bit to get to more meaty stuff. But wow, there's a lot to unpack here. Okay. Let's just go straight through it. That's the order that my notes are mostly organized, although I have gone back and added addendums in places. But let's go through it. We have the opening scene, the reveal that her mother is gone. And what happens in this scene is perfect, and it sets the stage for Shirase's mental state all the way up until the present. It was almost like a dream, and it still is. What are dreams like? Well, they're hazy and unreal, and they don't feel legitimate, and they don't click. They don't compute. And they're our brain's way of putting everything in place, but they themselves don't make sense, right? We can't make sense of them consciously usually, not without a lot of abstraction and use of symbolism, and even then it's finicky at best. Like a dream, hazy and unreal. And that feeling still hasn't gone away. And we see the first element of it immediately, as her grandmother is being informed by the guy from the station, whose face is hidden, of course. She's not waking up. Showing where she was lost and photos of her. And waking up. But that's the problem, isn't it? She might be waking up, but that is still hovering in her field of view. That is still unsolved, unresolved. And it still hasn't gone away. The first thing she does in this situation, though, she pulls out her phone and starts texting to Mom. Starts sending an email. And so we get our episode title. And with it the hashtags. Dear Okasan, Dear Mom. A place for the mini universe. Ooh. Ooh. Okay. We enter our normal dynamic, all the characters around. Everybody's seemingly doing great, except for one person in the very far background who is totally out of it. And yeah, that's a thing. All right. But again, we do the balancing act. We blend our humor with our tragic stuff and with the accidental hair snip. But as we do, we focus on her. This is her episode, and we're not going to do anything to detract from it. That humor, it's going to contrast with it, but not detract. So, finally, attention is turned to Shirase, and the spotlight is on her. Everyone looking at her through the mirror or turning to look. All these friendly faces, hoping that she'll come along. But it's a difficult decision. And so when she says, "Give me time to think about it," there's a knowing look on Gin's face. Wakatta. Yeah, you would think. But people are weird. People are weird. Okay, weather balloon stuff is neat, but... And talking here is better, because this is the friendship stuff. This is the homies collaborating to figure out how they're going to deal with this as a team. Like, okay, what are we going to do about this? And Kimari makes her first steps. But before that, we get to see Shirise zoning out again. And sending a message. A form of denial. A form of reaching out to someone who we know isn't there. And then she is somewhat rudely interrupted. And then Kimari is just there, doing her job for her, stepping in, being helpful. But she's trying to make inroads, right? She's trying to converse about the thing, but she's trying not to push about it, and it's fucking awkward. And the show knows it, and it makes this whole sequence as awkward as it could possibly be. Especially when we cut to the wide and we have the van go by. Stilted questions, stilted short answers, talking about irrelevant things, chitter chatter, small talk, the weather, it's hot today, snacks, right? Tumbleweed blows by, essentially. Perfect. Nothing, right, sure. But then it's that. What now? She feels it too. But in a different way. Because there's no next step for her, really. She's already there, right? Her goal was just to get to Antarctica. Shirise, though, she has one more thing to do. It's still really fun and kind of heartbreaking to see Kimari break down like this. Thaw. Meat, meat, meat. Veggies, meat. And beer. Nice. That's how you party. Okay, so they're not exactly cutting onions in this scene, but I think it's relevant that they're peeling onions in this scene, right? Because the whole conversation in the scene centers eventually around Shirise's lack of expected emotions having come to Antarctica, right? The whole thing is centered around this concept of well, Kimari pushes a little bit, and then I actually feel pretty normal, maybe too normal. That's dangerous. That's repression, right? Maybe subconscious, but it is. And it's also, well, I don't know. To me, it indicates being right on the edge of that cliff, where she expects that just coming here will be the thing that lets loose the floodgates, but it's not enough. It's not enough, but it is something. It's still emotion, and it's still been building up in her, and it's still going to explode. In the same way the Zamamiro did, but that was a different set of emotion. That was an external emotion. That was one directed outward toward all the people who told her she couldn't do it. This one's internal. It's acceptance. But it's gonna fucking hurt. And it's all been building up. So, as she talks about how sure she was that she would break down crying, thinking about her lost mother, thinking about the goal that she's finally reached, right? Of course, this is a pinnacle emotional moment. She should be crying rationally, right? Well, no, maybe not. But the fact that she's peeling onions during kind of accents that, right? If not for all of those things, at least she should be getting teary-eyed because of the fucking onions. But not even that works. Pretty normal, too normal. We hear what she had hoped to feel, maybe. This is what my mother saw. And of course, this particular scene, the location of the observatory, is the location of the cover. And so that's the scene that we fade out on at the end. Because she does see the things that her mother saw. But instead, and a part of it is that she's seeking justification, right? Why did my mother leave forever? Maybe if she can find Antarctica beautiful, she can go, oh, it was worth it. That makes sense. But she gets none of those things. She just gets, it looks exactly like the pictures, because of course it does. It's the context, it's the emotion. It's not the place, not really. But it is the journey. And she doesn't even remember the Zamamiro. So Kimari pushes. And the others push back a little bit right after this, I think, right? Or is that a little earlier? I think so. You came because your mother was waiting. She goes through all the things that she's done. But the worry is that it's all for naught. Yeah, that's where they push back. You're being awfully rough. But no, she's being rough on herself. Why did I come this far? But she knows she needs to take another step. But she knows she's afraid of doing so. Because what if it doesn't work? Fuck. This is such a perfect internal conflict. This went from, like, okay, I've got a beat on Shirase. Shirase wants closure on her mother and wants to show the world that she can do the thing that they say is impossible. Boom. We laid out the broad strokes of who Shirase is. Unfortunately, there's some really fucking broad strokes, and there is a lot of detail in the canvas that is this girl. A lot. It's complicated in the right way, in the way that humans are complicated. And that makes it more valuable. Again, I know I said this before, earlier in the discussion, but that makes it more valuable. The closer it is to something that, to use the phrasing of the show, the closer it is to an idea that we can latch on, the closer it is to something that can pull us through the cruelty of reality, right? Because again, this show deals with, in a romanticized way, perhaps, given the trip to Antarctica and things like that, it deals with real problems, real things that all of us will most likely have to deal with. And it shows characters coming to terms with them in a valuable way, a way that we can latch onto and get insight from. I think that's fucking awesome. So, the fear. What if this doesn't change? And then we jump straight from there to the party. Wow. Let's go. So, fun times snacking. And then this little chat is wonderful. Again, adding light moments in to balance out the heavy. It's so necessary, and this show does it so perfectly. She mentions Kobuchizawa. Threatens to turn the conversation serious, but it doesn't. Are you sure you don't want to say anything to her? And we see that she's meeting with Gin. And we get another phrase from Hinata, and I really like this one, again, as I have liked most of hers. To act is not necessarily compassion. To fail to act, or something. True compassion sometimes comes from inaction, right? Absolutely. Yeah. Especially when it comes to friends dealing with difficult things. Sometimes pushing is not the way. Sometimes it's necessary, though. And both strategies end up being used in this episode toward Shirase. I think we could say twice on the pushing, with Kimari pushing a little bit at the beginning, and then them pulling back, letting her have her moments, and then pushing again with getting the laptop. Yeah. But I like the line. More gibberish, I don't think so. And then we get this lovely smile and, you guys must be really good friends. Yeah. And then of course there's the reaction to this, which is just the best. Did she say good friends? We're good friends! This is the best face. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. And then we turn our attention here. And I think the music changes almost immediately. No, it goes silent. Okay. And then once she's asked the question... Okay, it's once the conversation starts in earnest and she starts to come sit. Yeah. That's when the music changes for real. Okay, here we go. This is the real shit. Where did what the fuck? The tip to my stylus pen just disappeared. What? 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 Where'd it go? The fuck? Do I have the little... Okay. I've got replacements, so whatever. Hooky. Cool. That's nice. It was getting scraped up anyway. Alright, here we go. This is where the serious shit really starts. Not that it hasn't been serious before, but holy crap. There's a portion of this conversation that I just handwrote every line for because it's perfection. I'm genuinely amazed by the writing here. It's so good. It's not like there's a lot new here in terms of information coming from Geen, but the way it's phrased and the kind of the lesson of it, the message of it is so, I love it. Okay, so we go sit down with Geen. One of the first things that she says is to do something that hasn't been done in the show so far. Kind of amazing that it hasn't. But nobody has explicitly said the words Takako is dead. No one has said that. Boom. And she just hits her with it out of the gate. Gosh, it means more, doesn't it? Not having really set it up until this point. I mean, it was clear in the context and the subtext of all of the conversations that we've had. The previous conversation on the ship between Geen and Shirise, obvious, right? It was there everywhere in the subtext. But nobody said those words. Takako is dead. Ow. So this spurs the question that spurs the rest of the discussion. Why did you come? Shirise asks. Then why did you come to Antarctica? Because I wanted to. Because I latched onto the idea that Takako wanted me to. And then she expands. At the end of the day, those ideas we latch onto aren't enough to motivate us. What? But when faced with the cruelty of real life, they're the only things that can break through, make the impossible possible, and allow us to continue on. What a weird, perfect, self-contradictory set of statements. Even the first two statements. Because I wanted to, because I latched onto the idea that Takako wanted me to. They're almost self-contradictory, right? Because I wanted to, because she wanted me to. Because I wanted to, because she wanted me to, right? And then the next one, the ideas that we latch onto aren't good enough to motivate us. But they're the only things that can break through, make the impossible possible, and allow us to continue on, motivate us. How can that be possible? Because humans are weird. Humans are weird. Those ideas that we latch onto aren't enough to motivate us. But they're the only things that can. We need more. Okay. No, there we go. Okay. I'm rereading it over and over, and I already did this during when I went through it, but I'm actually rethinking how I take it. It's a necessary but not sufficient argument. Okay. Okay. That makes so much more sense though. I'll rephrase it using the more specific language. At the end of the day, those ideas we latch onto aren't sufficient to motivate us, but when faced with the cruelty of real life, they are necessary to break through, make the impossible possible, and allow us to continue on. Does that make sense? There are, like, ideas that we latch onto, motivations, right? Things like that. They're necessary to motivate us, but they're not enough. We need more. And I think we could, if we take that line of thinking, we could argue that her friends are the ones who have pushed her forward, right? I think that makes a lot of sense. I don't know if it's necessarily an accurate interpretation. And I still like the idea that both of these statements are still contradictory and still true. But anyway, I just want to say and give as much time as I can to it because I really love this set of lines. They're really interesting. And they skim so close to really deeply held personal beliefs that I hold. You could say ideas that I've latched onto. So statements like this matter. So the response, you're saying I shouldn't leave it to anyone else? And the counter, the wonderful counter, yes. But that's how you've always done things, isn't it? Finally feels like they're really, really talking to each other. Really, really talking to each other. And I think that's doubled down upon when Gin hands her the radio. There's something about that scene that sticks with me. When Gin hands her the radio for the regular broadcast. There's something about it that's not motherly, but caring. And genuine. And almost as though Gin is seeing her more as an equal than an underling or someone to be protected. But she is trying to protect her, of course. Okay, but the end conversation about I shouldn't leave it to anyone else, yes, but that's how you've always done things, transitions us directly into, if I recall correctly, the money sequence. Moving forward. Yeah. Yeah. That's how you've always done things, isn't it? Immediate cut to here, because that is exactly what she did to acquire this the funds in this now extremely worn, weathered, sea journey surviving little envelope of funds. Funny thing here, all this money, she never used it. She never needed to, did she? Either to give it to the expedition or to pay their way or anything. Never needed it. How interesting, isn't that? How does that tie into this idea of what was it all for? But it's a lovely scene. As she lays out every single bill, says what she did to obtain it. And we see all these little moments. All the little moments where she pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and was told it couldn't happen. Because my mother is waiting there. She holds it close. Does she make a noise? Yeah. Just a catch of the breath. Closer. Closer to a real emotion, but not there yet. Okay, back to bright and kind of happy. Out on the road. Kimari has too much luggage. We've got ourselves a squad photo. Gin looking real intimidating. Hinata looks like the gooberest goober, and that's pretty perfect. And Shirase is just like also perfect. All right, we get the face from Kimari. Blah, 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 and she shows up. Just good morning. And we get a smile, and we get a photo. Who took the photo, I wonder? Huh. Because I think Kaede is holding the camera, but she's then in the foot. Maybe it's timer. Okay. It genuinely does not matter. Okay, then we get the voiceover. Here we go. To the place that seemed out of reach. More goof. Helicopter. Good stuff. Really cold. Hammering with banana. I don't get it. The snowcats moving around is pretty cool. Just the whole environment thing and the idea of moving so slowly through this endless landscape of snow. It's just pretty cool. Them all playing cards is nice. Okay. Moving. Time for work. Banana. Moving. Radio. Okay. Inland team, do you read over? Actually, let's listen to it with sound. It's short. So much emphasis in the reaction that Shirase gives her. Or does it have to do with her nerves when speaking over like phones and radios and stuff? I'm not sure. Maybe it's a little bit of both. That she's pushing her to practice it because she won't otherwise. Okay, and then we get the setup that I was kind of sort of expecting and also kind of not expecting, which is we end up in the same situation that that occurred on the night that Takako died. Did get scared at a couple of the scenes where we sort of focused in on Shirase staying up late and just being awake and her eyes open because the blizzard was still going and she kept looking out the window, and I was kind of scared that we would get a repeat, that she would go outside for unknown reasons. We did not. I'm glad we did not. I am also glad that we put the characters in the situation, right? Because it puts us physically, emotionally, and even like meteorologically, weather-wise, in the same place as that moment, right? And I think I'd have to go back and check. I didn't during the go-through, but I think that the wind whipping noises and blizzard sounds that were used, both the inside and the outside sounds, are the same ones that were used during the sequence for Takako's loss. I think. Actually, you know what? We get the scenes again in this episode. I'll check. I can check. Fuck yeah. Okay, if you end up out in a blizzard, you're never making it back. Honing in, and the sun pillar. It's pretty fucking cool. Does remind me of some Ava stuff, but still pretty cool. And a real thing. Apparently, I looked it up. Very cool. I was expecting Aurora, though, and we did kind of get it at the end. Now, what's interesting, though, is that at the particular moment when Takako was saying, it's beautiful, it's so beautiful, when she came through on the radio to Gin, it was too dark outside for the sun pillar to be a thing, right? Unless that occurs all night, but then visibility was trash, right? So it doesn't quite make sense that that's the thing that they saw. But it doesn't quite matter. Okay, blizzard comes. Shirase worries. Shirase approaches Gin, asks her the question. It is answered. Okay, we get the outside scenes now. It's the same set of files, at least. Gives us a thematic mesh. Puts us in that moment. Puts the characters in that moment, especially Gin. And Shirase for the first time. Okay. We have to talk about this. Because there's a line of thinking that you can have from this statement. And I don't know whether I like it. The line of thinking is this. Takako's not stupid. She's experienced out in Antarctica, right? Either something went horribly wrong mechanically. She got disconnected from the clip that was on the rope belt or whatever, which shouldn't be possible. And slipped down a crevasse or something. Or, despite the danger, she was emotionally driven to split off from the rest of the group in a horribly dangerous situation, and go get something back. Presumably the only object that they found of hers in the station. The computer. Presumably her one line of communication to her daughter, who had presumably been sending her messages before. So the line of thinking goes, Takako wandered off alone into the blizzard because she wanted to get her laptop back so that she could continue to read the messages sent by her daughter, and in doing so, separated herself from her daughter forever. Again, I don't know if I like that line of thinking. It's easier to not know, and I appreciate that the show doesn't tell us that it's that, because that's a lot. But it's pretty convenient. And that's really sad. That really sucks. I don't know. But we get an explanation of what happened. We find out that she was right behind Geen. And she wasn't. Yeah, that's a locking carabiner. Those don't slip off. You can see the sliding ring lock mechanism on it, far bottom left corner. That's a screw-in ring lock. Those don't come off. You have to manually unscrew them. Fuck. That comes really close to proving it. That she let herself off that rope intentionally. Without letting the others know. Oh, I don't like it. 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 We're moving on. And moments later, a blizzard was raging. I guess maybe she had split off before it got bad. Maybe. Yeah, no, we see the starry night sky. The sun, there is no sun pillar. But there might be auroras. Or something. Impossible to know. So she sits awake, the blizzard rages. And this right here was the moment I got scared. Because she shifts a little bit, looks out the window. I got scared. But no. Instead, she sees dreams. Apparitions. But they never quite solidify, right? You can still see the light of the window passing through Takako's head. It's never quite real. It's a phantom. But she sees them laugh together. And then there's this. This was one of the timestamps that I wrote down. 16 minutes, Shirase-chan. Because it's intentional. At the exact moment where Takako turns to face where Shirase is, and opens her mouth as if to speak, Kimari's voice cuts in, again interrupting.
Shirase-chan,
Snapping her from her reverie. But it's a good thing, because of what Kimari's about to say next. That little smile means so much, doesn't it? Even if it fades quickly. I really like it, but it's the friends. And finally, thanks for bringing me. There's something else, you know? What Takako did to or for Geen, Shirase has done for these three. Hers is the idea that they've latched onto. It takes more than a borrowed idea to have the kind of strength that pulls other people in. It takes more than just following out something like her mother's dream. No, it's hers. And each of them that latched onto it made it stronger, made it more robust, made them a unit. And then, of course, it also ties into the one little word of gratitude. And then, of course, it also ties into the youth in motion. And it's a statement of deep and lasting gratitude. You helped me achieve the thing I wanted. And she smiles a real smile. And narrates the last letter. I've made friends. What a thing to say, huh? What a thing to say. I also love that Gin is taking part in the card game and doing just as badly as Shirase. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Exactly as bad with the same mannerisms, right? I also love the little fun things like the frozen cup ramen. They're all a little weird. Hammering a banana. God damn it. Also, where's the wide? Yeah. Oh, they moved each of them in turn on a frame. Oh, no, they all move kind of independently. It looks like Shirase and Hinata move on frames 1 and 2. Shiraishi moves on frame 3, and then Kimari moves on frame 4. Or no, Kimari moves on frame 1 or 2 with Shirase and Hinata. What? Okay, so it functions like interlacing almost in making the whole scene look like it's animated more than all the individual elements necessarily are. KyoAni uses the same trick in Hyoka multiple times when there are multiple characters at different depths of field in the classroom doing things simultaneously, like packing up their stuff to go. One will move on frame 1, and then another will move on frame 2, and then the third will move on frame 3. And when you put it all together, they all look like they're moving simultaneously, but they're not. But there's animation happening on every frame, so it looks more fluid. This is cool. Yeah, that's cool. And then the gosh, there's so much accurate shit in this. Like the way that the shadows at an angle get distorted and fuzzy on one side and less so closer to the object, and less so closer to the side where the light is coming from, more on the other end. God damn. That's a lot. It's the same on the girl shadows too. It's got to be done digitally. There's got to be a program for it or something. That's so cool. But the whole thing, it wraps up her feelings toward her friends. To this place where you came. Yeah. Yeah. I wasn't able to make it. Will I be able to see it? That is the question. But now we arrive. And it's the same place. In fact, it's almost the exact same place, exact same location, exact same angle as the scene where Gin lost Shirase. It was right there. Feet away from Shirase currently is. I'm sorry, where Gin lost Takako. We made it. It's almost nothing there. Nope, terrible shape. But the name is revealed. Yeah. And the tears come. probably remembering seeing it with my mom. And in this moment, we get one of the coolest facial cuts. Because she says that with such a deadpan expression, no emotion. All three of them react to it. Kimari most fiercely shakes her head. It's so smooth, I thought it was jumped to 24, but it's not. It's a trick of just how smooth the animation is, and the zoom. It's all in 12. Super good, though. And then a little blush. And then immediately into pitter-patter, pitter-patter. Running everywhere. We're not going to find anything. Trying to keep them back. Deny, deny, deny. Deny, deny, deny. They refuse. They go for it. How can you be sure? And eventually. I made it. I've gone far enough. No, you haven't. You've come this far. You have to take that next step. Please. It's here. And we hand it over. Her laptop. Sad smiles. Glad to give it to her, but knowing this isn't gonna be easy. Oh. And then all that's left are the final 2 scenes, essentially. The emails and the insert song, and then the fade out over the cover. We've already talked about the email part. She sets it up. The others wait outside, not pressuring. She hesitates, and then turns it on. Incorrect, and then she types her birthday. And it opens. And in this moment, I don't know what I expected. I think the traditional storytelling thing to do here would be to have a journal or a diary or something, right? Oh gosh, my mom's diary. Finally a way to connect to how she was really feeling in her last days. Nothing so convenient. Nothing so cliche. Just a mailbox. Every email in it, from what we can see, coming from the observatory. So I guess maybe that nixes the idea that that she had been receiving emails from Shirise beforehand. But we don't know. But they start coming. And realization hits. And it's not a few. And it's not a few hundred. They just flow. And as they do, the tears flow. Because it's real. It's over. She never read any of them. And the coping mechanism that has maybe carried you through until this point, the little bit of hope that it might have given you, you have to let it go. You have to let it go. And so the tears flow and the emails keep coming. Can I say, as an aside, that when you watch a lot of anime, you see a lot of anime girls crying in various ways. Whether it's going ridiculous with it and playing it up for laughs like sometimes happens in K-On, or being very serious about it. It happens all over the place. Tears are powerful. Can I just say that the way that Shirase's tears streaming down her cheeks are animated is absolutely gorgeous. It strikes this balance between the anime tear super bubbles and realism, where it's still stylized, but it gets the point across that this is the waterworks, man. This is the overflow. This is too much. This is a dream shattering. This is reality setting in, and it's cruel. And they share in her pain, even though they can't. I did go through the whole ending song. There were a few lines that I really liked. The footprints I've left in a blindingly white world have disappeared too. And one day let's go on a journey again. I like those. I like the whole song, but I like those in particular. And then there's the fade out. Now this might sound kind of weird, but I'm really impressed by this fade out. With the shadows changing and eventually disappearing, the clouds continuing to move in multiple layers. Slowly, slowly. The subtle changes at the top, lending a more purplish hue as orange begins to peek in from the side. The shadows elongating as the sun sets. The sky growing dimmer and dimmer, until we start to bring forth that layer of stars that's been back there the whole time. We start giving it a little bit more. And then as we do, we start bringing forth that layer of what's either the aurora or the Milky Way. I can't really tell, but it looks too blue to be the Milky Way. All the way into deep night. And at that point, it's definitely aurora, isn't it? Because of those green clouds. The sun sets even here. And the sun sets on the journey. It feels like we've finally arrived, doesn't it? Well, this is what we've been building to since the very beginning, isn't it? The real moment where we reach our goal. The future's up in the air, but we don't necessarily need to know about the future. We know these girls. We can be pretty confident that they'll go on some kind of adventure again. Sometimes when you build up an event in a show, this will be probably the last thing I talk about. Sometimes when you build up an event in a show, everything that builds up to it just serves to accentuate the eventual event. And I think a lot of big events in anime and manga end up this way. The other option is when the event itself adds meaning to all of the things that preceded it. I think this one does both. I think this moment of finally relief and deep despair and grief all coming out, it elevates a lot of Shirase's character in the previous episodes. a lot of characters in the previous episodes. It folds all those bits and pieces in, like it did literally within the scene where she's laying out all the money and we see other shots of her interacting with people. It folds those moments in. And then we tumble over the precipice, and there's nothing to hold on to anymore. The tears will flow. The tears will dry. Will the grief ever be gone? Probably not. But that's healthy. That's how it should be. It's simultaneously common and terribly uncommon to find anime that really nail emotionally resonant, relatable, real, believable struggle. Whether it's with depression or anxiety or loss or any of the infinite ways that human beings have found to suffer. It's not uncommon to address it, but it's less common than it should be that such topics are brought up and handled in such a beautiful way, and in a way that I think is, again, useful. That's the coolest thing about it. Because seeing fictional characters go through struggles that are close to our own, seeing them overcome them, learning from the way that they overcome them, even in fiction, even in stories, gives us the tools to combat our own demons, to fight our own battles, to take the last step forward if we need to. This show does that. And I have nothing but praise for it on that front. Fuck yeah. Alright, that's my take on Yorimoi episode 12. I've been Teeaboo. I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I have, and I really hope to catch you next week for the finale. I'm sure it'll be feels filled, but I'm expecting a little bit more uplifting, which might get to me more. We'll see. But anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you next week. Peace.